I've had many leading experts on this show, including Matthew Walker, and they've all said the same thing about sleep. They've said it's the biggest positive investment you can make in your own performance. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you're consistently tired, poor decision-making will follow and eventually cause other things to fail in your life. So if you're looking to optimize your recovery, you should start looking at what you're sleeping on. Our sponsor, Helix, makes high-quality mattresses tailored to your body. It doesn't matter if you run hot, sleep on your side, or need something firm. Helix has a mattress for you. And I asked them recently to send one to a member of my team, and Juan received it. And we travel a lot, so when he's home, quality sleep really matters. And he told me he's getting the best sleep of his life. And the data backs it up, with 82% of people in a Helix study saying they saw an increase in their deep sleep. And with a 120-night trial, you've got 4 months to prove it to yourself. You can get 27% off at helixsleep.com/diary. That's helixsleep.com/diary. Candy Kittens. I wonder what you think I'm talking about when I say those two words. And I'm guessing, due to the success of this business, a lot of you will actually already know. It's one of the fastest growing confectionery brands in the UK, and it was started by reality TV star Jamie Laing with his business partner Ed Williams in 2012. It kind of begs the question, what adult would start a candy brand at the age of 20-something? But these guys have absolutely smashed it. They're selling a bag of sweets every couple of seconds. They've sold millions and millions and millions of bags of candy, generating tens of millions in revenue over the last couple of years. And their brand is an absolute juggernaut. The momentum is absolutely crazy. And these two guys, Jamie and Ed, are the perfect pairing. If you've ever wondered what your perfect business partner would be, if you ever thought what the perfect complementary piece of the jigsaw puzzle that you might be missing, these guys have found that in each other. One of them is incredibly overly stimulated and excited, and Ed, on the other hand, is calm. He's pragmatic. He's very, very practical. My conversation with them was funny. It was informative. It was real. It was everything that this podcast has always been. And I can't wait for you to hear it. So without further ado, this is the Diary of a CEO, and I'm Stephen Bartlett. I hope nobody is listening. But if you are, then please keep this to yourself. Ed, Jamie, I alluded to the fact that I'd known Candy Kittens some time before we started recording. And here's how. So I don't know what year it was. It was a couple of years ago. I was on Cedars. I was a broke young man, entrepreneurial, an investor. And I was scrolling down Cedars and I saw Candy Kittens, and I was so compelled by the story. I saw you on there. I looked into the brand a little bit more. I'm not talking shit here. It was probably the closest I've ever come on Cedars to investing in something. And so I've seen it grow and grow and grow since then. Every time I get on a Virgin flight now from New York to London, which I do all the bloody time, it's the thing that I'm eating. I'm eating like the watermelon ones. Yeah. And at the end of the flight, you come to my chair and it's just all these fucking wrappers of like the candy.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's my sort of historical connection to the brand.
But I love the fact that, because when you said I was broke, but I was looking to invest. And I was like, how is that?
It allows you to, right?
Yeah.
Or you've got to click a couple of buttons and pretend you've got a little bit of excess income, and you can, and Bob's your uncle. So
did you ever invest in anything on Cedars?
I never did, and I've invested off Cedars, but I was looking for a platform like that. I was obsessed with Dragon's Den, and it was one of those platforms that would allow me to invest a little bit and feel like an investor. And there was two ones that I really remember. One of them was like some indoor beach, whatever, and the other was Candy Kittens. That felt the most solid at the time.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is, how did you get there? How did you get to that point? What's the context of, I know you guys met in a pub one day and all those things, but why did you choose Cedars as a platform to raise investment versus all the other options out there?
It's a good question, actually. I think that we'd reached a point where we thought, okay, to get to that next level, and I think at this stage we were still young. A couple years in there, we'd kind of gone through family and friends round of investment, pulled together enough money to kind of get the business going.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
I've always been too scared to raise money from anybody that I know. And maybe that's a sign that I don't back myself, but the thought of raising money from friends and family terrifies me.
I think to be honest, Jamie and I have always been sort of we're very different people, but we bring completely different things. And one thing that Jamie's always been amazing at is finding money. So he's like a Jack Russell for money. He can go and sniff it out and just go and find the people and the right friends. And I think that as long as you're doing it in a way that everybody's happy and everybody's upfront and transparent from the beginning, that actually, look, we're going into a point here where this could go wrong. I think it can work, but what do you think?
But also, I think there's two things to this as well, because firstly, we were quite young. We didn't really understand how important cash was for a business. And so we were looking at the easiest place to get it. We didn't realize that we did, but we didn't realize the concept of you could go pretty much to other people and other people would do that. We kind of, well, what's the easiest place to get money? Okay, friends and family, and that's why we'll do it. And I think also I think it's important to understand that there's this sort of big misconception that I have money growing on trees everywhere, and that I have this bank balance from McVitie's. I've never seen that. I mean, and everyone always writes things saying that, oh, he's heir to McVitie's. I'm not. I don't know where that money is, but it is true. That, yeah.
Have you seen that Lewis Capaldi video where he's talking about he found his net worth of 10 million on Google?
Oh, yeah.
He's still got the New York wallpaper in his bedroom. Have you seen that video?
No, it's hilarious. Yeah, he's just genius. But it's true, and people throw numbers around with all different things, and actually, most of it's not true. But I think that I've always said this. It's in terms of business, cash is so important. It's oxygen. You need it to make you breathe. And for us, we needed cash. And I think that it's like a riddle. Everyone has money in their pockets. It's just finding a way of getting the money from them into your pockets. If you have a great idea, if you're passionate, most people buy into the individual. As you know, they're not really buying into the business unless it's something like Caesar's. Like, okay, that's a great thing. But when you're meeting someone, you kind of go, okay, is this person? Do I like this person? Are they passionate? Do you think they got drive? Do you think they're going to achieve what they want to achieve? And then you kind of invest in them. You can create a great business, but if you have a wrong team surrounding it, it's probably going to fail. But if you have a great team and a mediocre business, more chance of it succeeding. So it's about going to different individuals and persuading them and proving to them and showing that you really have a belief that your brand or business is going to achieve something great. And I think that's what we were doing with Candy Kittens, because it was so authentic and real to us. We found it quite not easy at all, but we found it easier to meet people who were potential investors. But Cedars for us was a platform because it was exciting. It was fun. We could make a big show about it. We were new.
Publicity.
Publicity.
And I think also at the time, crowdfunding itself was new.
Yeah.
It was like a real buzz around it. So everybody that you spoke to that was talking about raising money or doing these things was doing it through crowdfunding. So I guess we also slight kind of human sheep mentality. We were like, okay, well, we want a bit of that. We want to go in and get involved in that as well. Did it work?
Yeah, that's another story.
Another story, but it was quite a good thing, I think, from a PR and kind of hype perspective.
And I think that's important to say is that it didn't work for us.
Why?
Because we approached it in the wrong way. We believed that because we had a profile in myself, because the brand had a profile, because we had 80,000 people following us on social media with the brand, we thought that people were going to invest, and we thought that was that amount of people was going to turn into cash. And it just doesn't work that way, as you know. It really doesn't. And we were mistaken. I think there's lots of, crowdfunding is a great place for a lot of different people, but for some people it isn't, because you kind of got to get investors before, you got to get people interested before, you got to do all these different things, and we did none of that work. We just thought, okay, fine, we're going to put Candy Kittens on the website and everyone's going to invest. Sure. And it didn't work out that way for us.
I mean, you hear about all these kind of big success stories where people fund in 30 minutes
Monzo.
But actually the reality is that a lot of them are doing a huge amount of groundwork beforehand. So we were too naive to that and actually didn't really line up any investment beforehand. We did a bit because Cedars kind of explained that that's sort of a good tip would be to do this. And we had a bit, but not enough.
And so how did that play out for you to conclude the Cedars story? You how much did you raise?
So what actually happened, which was, again, just another example of one of the 100 times in our lives where we've been just incredibly lucky. We hit a point where we were about a week out and it looked like we probably were about 80% funded, but we didn't think we were going to just tip over and get that extra 20-25%. So we spoke to our existing shareholders, our first investors, and one of them said, "Oh, well, if these 150 people have backed you and are really interested, maybe I've missed something. Why didn't I just put all the money in myself?" And we were like, "Okay, well, wish you'd said that 6 months ago, but let's go for it." And he actually essentially put all the money in himself. And then we had a group of about 20, 25 people that had invested or pledged on Cedars over $5,000, I think it was. So in order to kind of honor their commitment to us and honor their faith they showed in the brand, we said, okay, well, you guys can still come in at that valuation. We'll kind of honor that, brought them in. And then everybody that had invested less, we kind of politely declined and sent them a bag of sweets and said, thank you very much, and kind of kept them involved in the journey. But yeah.
I'm super intrigued there, Jamie, about the misconceptions thing.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be the case that misconception follows you around, right?
Yeah.
And I also noticed you were very quick to address that particular point. So I wanted you to give me context as to what that's like as an entrepreneur, because the more successful you get, and this is just me guessing from because I've never had to sort of carry that misconception around with me because of the McVitie's thing. The more success you get, the more people, because of the way that humans are, like to discredit or discount your success, because it in some respects will make them feel good about themselves, or if they can take the credit off you and mitigate the hard work that you've done and try and take that away from you, then it shines a better light on themselves in some respect. The thought that you might have worked really, really hard and done something really, really good is something that makes others feel inadequate to some degree.
Yeah, that's totally it. And I suppose, if I'm totally honest, it's probably a defensive thing now because, I think that is it. The sort of main question when Ed and I go and do different talks and chats and all these different things, the question that comes out every single time is, well, you had a lot of money, so surely your family helped you with that. And I said, well, no, that's not the case. And it's probably a defensive thing for myself, but also it's important to know that we didn't come from a place from that situation. So people listening to this podcast or listening to our talks or whatever it is, know that it is possible to achieve those things, even coming from a completely normal place in a sense. But I think, it is tough because I think in life, you want to be kind of proud of what you've achieved and proud of what you're doing and all those different things. And so when people try and give excuses or say for the reason, well, this is why you've achieved what you achieved, you kind of want to hit them back with something else a lot of the time. And so that's probably what I do. But I joined a reality TV show. I mean, the amount of shit that I got given, I'm used to it. I'm used to it. But I think it's more, for some reason, you have more. There's a lot of pride we have with our business, and we have a lot of passion towards it. And Ed and I were 21, 22 years old. You started as a young entrepreneur. You know how hard it is at the beginning for people to take you seriously, for anyone to take you seriously. Even our parents didn't believe that we were going to set up a sweet company. And Ed and I, to our sort of credit, have built this company up from the ground up, nearly losing it 1,000,000 times and going through lots of different struggles like every single person does. And so you want to be proud of that because you kind of go, well, this is what we've done and this is what we've achieved. And we started with £3,000 in the bank. We didn't start with 1,000,000 or whatever it was. And so I probably counter it every single time for two reasons, going back to your question, is firstly because I want people to realize that anything is kind of possible if you put your mind to it. You don't have to be in a certain situation to raise capital or to build a business. You don't have to be wealthy. And anyone can do it if you really put the hard work in. And secondly, we're proud of Candy Kittens. And we built it ourselves. And I don't want other people to believe differently because why would I?
Then they also, as you said, then they won't see that path as being achievable for themselves.
That's it. You want to kind of make the path. And I think, in life, I think what is really important, I think that success, growing up, I always thought that if you made a lot of money and you had this and had that, that was going to equal success. And what I've realized now is that is totally not success. That is actually having a purpose, and that it links to success. If you have a purpose in life, you feel very successful because you wake up every day and you want to achieve and do something. And for us, we feel incredibly successful every single day because we get to do something that we want to do all the time. And we really encourage the younger generation to go out there and do the same thing because freaking hell, people now are told that you have to go into this job or into this industry to achieve this. We always talk about this at schools. You're told you have to pass this exam to get to this university. And if you get to this university, you get this degree, that means you're going to reach here. And it's totally false. Going out there and doing something that you really want to do and want to achieve, that is way more fulfilling and way better than anything else. You dropped out of university and look where you are now. And it was because you just said, oh, screw this. I kind of want to go and do what I want to do. And we really want other people in this world to go, doesn't matter what background you're from, what gender you are, whoever you are, you can go and do it if you put your mind to it.
And here's me playing devil's advocate, and this is a question for both of you.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason I asked this question is because I think as much as and I think I literally posted about this on my LinkedIn yesterday, as much as entrepreneurs, we did it ourselves. And the reason one of my first questions to you was about misconceptions. So it's interesting that you raised it before I asked the question. The reason my first question was about misconceptions is I know that even if you come from, say you did, I know that it's a great, whatever. Yeah. Even if you did come from a wealthy background, it's not a precursor for success in your own life. And I've got in fact, my most successful friends typically aren't the ones that go on to do great things because if they had it handed to them. And it's often my friends that were deprived of their parents or whatever their parents' resources that end up going and building a life for themselves. Umar Kamani is a great example with Pretty Little Thing, who's coming on to do this podcast live in a couple of weeks' time. He's had the credit robbed from him because his dad's the billionaire founder of Boohoo.
There you go.
But I've been there with him, and I know his journey. And so even as an outsider,
it's a shame that, isn't it? I mean, we had somebody on our podcast.
It's a tremendous shame.
Jamie and I have got our own podcast. We had somebody on a few weeks ago, and I had a call the day before from her PR manager, and she said, "Oh, can we just make sure whatever we do not talk about school life or early life, because she had quite a privilege, went to a really nice boarding school, blah blah blah, and she doesn't want to talk about that because it always discredits what she's gone on to achieve."
Sure.
And it's just kind of a
sad,
weird thing that people actually have that.
Because with Umar, he is the most obsessive, hardworking. He's obsessive to the point where one might diagnose it as a bit of an illness. and to think, and to have watched him for 5 years, where he's a bit of a client of mine, but he's become a very, very close friend.
Yeah.
To watch the sacrifice he's gone to, and to hear everybody in the city and globally just say, oh, well, his dad's a billionaire. It feels like a massive injustice.
Yeah.
And I've had right now, and with my team and stuff, they'll often ask me, what's Umar like? And I'll say, I'll be honest with you, he's a bit of a genius. He'll never be given that credit.
Yeah.
And that's why.
But how does he feel about that? Does that bother him?
He realised that was the case, and I think it did impact him early on. But now he's so comfortable because he's gone so far, and so many people have been around him to see that he is the one that's taken the brand there, that he's getting more and more relaxed with it. But that's why the first question to you was, because I didn't think that was the case.
But but I think also it's just, that's the sort of cross you bear. But also I really think it's important not to forget about where you came from, your roots. Mm-hmm. And, I went to a private school. I went to a boarding school from the age of 8 years old.
And this was my question about self-awareness was, what are the privileges that you think you've had in your lives that have put you here? Because they might not be financial privileges, but they could be educated, it could be good parents.
I mean, we talk about this a bit, but I think actually for both of us, probably, speaking for both of us, is that our parents have always have given us the confidence to go and do what we want to do, and have never, ever held us back. Mm-hmm. Yes, when we started the business, they said, sweet company, you're mad, what are you thinking about? But ultimately, they believed in us and said, actually, go on then, if you think you can do it, go and show us. And I think that's probably the greatest kind of gift that definitely I was given, is the fact that our parents believed in us and kind of encouraged us to go and achieve anything. Mm-hmm. I was never told that I wasn't good enough, or I couldn't and speak to that person or go and do that thing. I would go and be confident to have a conversation with anybody from any background, any walk of life. And I think my parents gave me that. And that's probably, for me, the biggest asset, I think, to do what I've done.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think the biggest asset, I think growing up, right, like I said, I went to sort of private school and things like that. And I don't think you're educated better. I don't think that... you have there are lots of things that are positive about going to a boarding school, a private educated school, but there are lots of negative things as well. But the biggest positive for me was you're given confidence. You're told to stand up in front of the whole school and give a talk, or you're told to read a poem out. And that inner confidence that it puts within you is so vital in life. The reason why a lot of people don't go out there and achieve what they want to achieve is because they lack confidence. They're scared about failing. They're scared about not achieving something. They're worried what people will think of them. And I think it's really important from an early age to have confidence, because then you can believe in yourself that you can go and achieve stuff. And for Ed and I, at the very beginning, we wanted to go and set up a sweet company. Right? We had no idea how to make sweets. We had no idea where to get them from. We had no idea what we were doing. But we thought, well, no, we're going to do it because
why a sweet company?
Well, it's interesting because I believe a lot in kind of sort of fate, I think. And when I was a kid, I sort of say this a lot, but it's the truth. When I was a kid, I was scared of the dark, and I used to go and sleep in my brother's room because I was scared of the dark and wanted to share a room with him. And he used to tell me a story of Jamie and Sweetworld to make me fall asleep. So I had this obsession with sweets, coupled with the fact that my parents didn't allow me to eat any sweets because I was so hyper. They fed me, I fed me white chocolate. There's more sugar in it than anything else. So that's what they used to feed me. So I had this obsession with sweets. I love sweets. And growing up, my one wish would be to have a world made of sweets, that sweets didn't damage your teeth. And I think this manifesting in my head kind of grew and grew. And I went to New York when I was about 17 years old. And I went to Dylan's Candy Bar, which is Ralph Lauren's daughter's sweet shop. She has a few over America. It's kind of like the Hamleys, the Harrods of sweet stores. You imagine Willy Wonka, but
yeah, it's a crazy place.
Actually, so it's amazing. And I went in there, and it was incredible, and it was amazing, and it was wonderful, and people were spending $300 on sweets. I thought, this is crazy. I want to create a sweet shop. And the idea behind it was to create a sweet shop that was a mixture between Willy Wonka and Hugh Hefner. That was the idea, because I wanted the kittens to be beautiful girls, because I thought that would be fun for me, and I wanted the candy was a sort of generalized term for sweets. So
I
had
to
like,
drop the Hugh Hefner thing pretty quick.
It
wasn't a good look.
Not the climate.
It wasn't a good look.
And Ed very quickly swooped in and said, let's not set up a sweet shop. Let's not do that, because that means that we only have one situation where people can go to. You only have a location. And why do you just want to have a location? Why do you want everyone to have these sweets? And I said, okay, this is a good idea, but what about the Hugh Hefner thing? He said, it's a terrible idea. Get rid of that idea.
But I think it was the fact that Jamie had kind of stumbled across this massive opportunity in the market for a modern confectionery company, somebody that was delivering something that was relevant and resonated with a young audience. If you look at chocolate, there's a chocolate bag, box, bar for literally every single person out there, from like a real cheap chocolate bar through to a champagne truffle 75% cacao thing. And then sweets, there's just sweets for kids and maybe a tin of sweets in that weird kind of like white powder hard-boiled sweets that your grandma's got in the front of her car, and nothing in between. As Jamie started telling me this idea, it was sort of like a light bulb moment, and it kind of came off together, and yeah, we've kind of been going at it ever since.
But also, which I think is so important, is that when you're selling a product, right, I really feel like it needs to have a story, and it needs to feel real towards the consumer. And for us, it was very real. It felt real towards everyone. They actually believed it. So it was kind of okay for us to go down this road of making sweets, because I went, oh no, this is believable. Actually, I understand where this is coming from. We had this story and we had this background thing. So we kind of knew what we wanted to create and where we wanted to go with it. I think the trouble happens is when someone says, okay, what do we, they sit in a room, they brainstorm about what they want to create. I'm sure it has happened a lot of times, but I find it very rare that someone goes, okay, there's a gap in the market for a new water. Let's go and create a new water. Because you don't actually, it's not within you. And you really, you know this, Steve, like business and building a brand is hard. Go back to your point about, it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or you have so many social media followers. It doesn't matter. Business is still hard. And going back to the Pretty Little Things guy, it's amazing what he's done with that business. Doesn't matter if it's $1 billion and all these different things. It's incredible what he's done, and he should get the full credit for that. And it's because he actually really believed in it. He knew what he wanted to do. And if you get lost in life, doesn't matter whatever you're doing, you then become muddled and you don't know what you're doing. You need to have a destination without a doubt. And for us, we always knew our destination. We knew what we were trying to create. We were trying to create the best sweet possible, which we were doing, or we're still doing today. That's what we want to just create the best sweet possible. That's what we're always trying to do. And I think if it's not authentic and not real, you suddenly forget what you're driving towards.
Well, I think consumers also can just see through that so easily now, right? There's so many touch points. If you were Haribo and it launched a bag of sweets, they just put a bag of sweets on the shelf and they can kind of they can make up the story and say what they want, and there's nowhere else to find out. Yeah. You see one TV advert and one bag. Whereas now there's so many places for people to go and find out about your brand, whether that's the content you're putting out or the stuff that other consumers are saying.
And there's so many brands as well. So there's so much
choice.
So you can see, if there's 30,000 bags, different variations of Haribo, it's very easy for there to be a standout and then grey.
Exactly. And actually, it's a great point. And that's where we started this kind of unique segment for premium confectionery. So we were the first people to come along and make a gummy sweet and sell it for £3 a bag.
Can we just quickly say, we did that by mistake. We didn't,
that was an accident.
We did it by mistake.
Like a lot of things that we've done, they were happy accidents.
Which part was a mistake?
£3. So we just kind of made a sweet. We said, okay, we want it to taste like this. We want to use real fruit juice. We want to use natural ingredients. We want to put it in this nice bag. And we're like, sweet, okay. That's going to cost £3. And then we just kind of put it on the shelf.
It's interesting you referred to that as a mistake, because it's like unintentional intention. You created something that you wanted and that you thought was great. And you are also probably the customer to some degree as well. So it's funny that it's unintentional, but it comes from...
I suppose, it's unconscious more than unintentional, I think. We were just going, okay, this is the thing. And we talk about this a bit where we say... I studied design at university, and a big part of design is all about doing your research and understanding the market and really going out there. And we do all these things.
Kill everything creative.
And you just think, why? Because actually, if we had gone out and asked the market what they wanted, we would never have come back with this. We would have come back with another Haribo. Yeah. Exactly. So for us, that £3 thing was just so jarring and so unbelievable, but for people in the industry. But actually for us, we were like, well, we believe it. We can do it. And we've proven that. And... you're right. It's just don't go and ask the market for research.
Yeah. The best business plan is no business plan, supposedly.
Do you know, it's a really interesting thing I say about my own business, which, we were a bunch of young kids. We walked into this office. The first thing we did, we spent 13 grand of our startup budget on a slide. And we were like, everyone can go on holiday whenever you like. You don't have to book holidays. The next thing we bought was a basketball hoop. So we've got this office, no desks, a 13 grand slide and ball pit being installed. We're all sat on these fucking £1 invented desk. A couple of bean bags, and there's this photo of this office, massive office, and they're just installing a slide before the desks have arrived.
We're going to be Google.
No, but it was totally like, this will be a fun place to work every day. And it's funny that in reflection, the naivety is the motivator behind all of our greatest decisions.
Yeah.
Because if we'd read a book on how to run a business and how to make an office and how to do marketing, we would have been doing fucking newspapers in a full white-walled office. But the naivety made, these kids, we started doing thunderclaps on Twitter with people like you back in the day. And we created this term thunderclap. And then we in this crazy fucking wacky warehouse, we have a 100-meter jungle in there where the birds sing. And that naivety, which you probably see in Disney and PLT and your brand, is in fact...
Well, it's funny that when we, you talked about Cedars at the start, when we put together our Cedars campaign, we went out and got a few kind of testimonials for our campaign video. And we thought we'd smashed it. We were selling in Selfridges at the time. So we went and spoke to the head of food at Selfridges. And we said, can you say something nice about us? And kind of put the camera on her. And she was like, and we thought she was going to say, these guys are geniuses. They've nailed it. They're experts at what they do. And she actually just said, do you know what? I think these guys are going to go really, really far because they haven't got a clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about the industry. They're totally naive. And that was everything you've just said is the fact that we came at it from a completely fresh place.
I honestly say this, and it's so funny that you use the word naivety. I say it all the time. Naivety is your biggest weapon. And it is so important to realize that people go out into the market and try and study everything and understand how they do this and that. I put it down to the same thing. If someone said you should go and we're doing The Mask too. Have you seen The Mask with Jim Carrey? Let's call it Ace Ventura. Go and do Ace Ventura number 5, whatever it is. But it's not going to be Jim Carrey. You're going to play it. If you've seen Ace Ventura, it is impossible to play anything else but how Jim Carrey played it. It's impossible. So it's actually the naivety of going into it, just seeing it completely raw for yourself. That's when you'll gain success, because you go about it just how you think. If you start following others, it is so important I think it's important to have a mentor. I think it's important to have someone that you can turn to and look up to. But in terms of what you're creating, do it yourself. Like I said, we were 21, 20 years old, creating sweets, putting them in the bags that no one else had seen before, making them gluten-free, making them cost £3. and just putting them out there. And we did it, and we said, well, we like it, so we're going to do it. And I think that's so important. People try and follow these trends, and if you start following these trends, the same thing goes for, and it drifts into different things. Like I always talk to people who go into reality TV or who are creating a podcast or are creating a YouTube channel. You have to know the reason why you're doing it. If you're going into reality TV or doing a podcast or doing a YouTube channel just to become famous, you will get lost. Because when you get that fame, you won't know what to do with it. Yeah, you go, what's happening now? And this is why we have a huge problem at the moment with these different things, because people gain fame and they don't know what to do with it. But you have to know where you want to go.
And they didn't know why they wanted it in the first place.
And then actually what you find out, Steve, is that you realise that actually it's very unfulfilling. It doesn't bring you happiness and success as much as you thought it would do. And you go, oh shit, everything that I was striving towards doesn't really mean anything.
And the anticlimax must be crippling.
Crippling. And so you've got to know from the beginning what you want to do and where you want to go. Otherwise you'll get lost.
I think the same applies to, you talked about fame there, but success and wealth generally as well. I think if you don't understand the motivations from day one as to why you were striving to get rich or build something great, I remember that some of the most confusing days of my life were the days when someone came across and said, we'll buy your company for X tens of millions, and going home, an 18-year-old Steve showing up right in my mind and being like, let's get that Lambo. And then going on Rightmove that night. I remember being sat on the bottom floor of my house and going on Rightmove that night, being like, okay, we'll look at mansions. And then looking at a photo of a mansion and thinking, okay, well, if I live there, that's going to be 45 minutes away from my friends. There's 7 bedrooms, a tennis court. I don't think that's going to make me happy. Okay, I'll look at Lamborghinis. Looks at Lamborghinis, black Aventador Lamborghini. That looks really uncomfortable versus like the big 4x4 I have now. And thinking, so why did I do this again? I know there's a reason, but I don't think I was fully in touch with it. Right? Because I love getting up every day and I'm enjoying this. But 18-year-old Steve, who was broke and come from a family that were bankrupt, that never had Christmas and birthdays, had somehow told himself that, if you get rich, then your parents might stop arguing. Yeah. That kind of thing. But that wasn't the reason why I was doing it. And so it was success and getting success that made me super self-aware. And why are we doing this every day? And if you're just going to keep getting more and more successful, what is the purpose of that pursuit?
Where's the finish line? Exactly.
Because you're gonna keep climbing and you're gonna get more, more power and more freedom. And you can't believe that every step up this ladder is gonna make you more happy. Because if you believe that, it will make you more miserable. And that's the anticlimax point.
Yeah, and I think and listen, we're not, I think all three of us can agree, we're not sitting here and saying, you need to know exactly what you're doing right now. Yeah. You can start on your journey and understand that you want to create the best suite possible, but you've got to learn on your journey that actually you've got to really understand why you're doing this and what, there's a great story that Ed and I heard that, again, I've mentioned on another podcast, I'm sure, about a guy who worked for JP Morgan, I think it was. He worked for some big bank, earning huge amounts of money. And he went on holiday to Thailand. He was in Thailand and he was sitting on a bus and this guy got on and he was like, he didn't really want anyone to sit next to him, so he kind of covered up a seat. But the guy came and sat next to him anyway. And he's an American guy, and he turned to him and said, how are you doing? Started speaking. He said, yeah, I'm good. I'm great. He says, what do you do? And he says, I work for JP Morgan. And he said, oh, you must be earning a lot of money. He said, yeah, I do. I earn a lot of money, actually. He said, are you happy? And he went, I don't really know if I am. And he said, okay, we'll do the test. If you're sitting in your rocking chair when you're 90 years old, are you going to be happy with your life? He said, I don't think I will. He said, okay, we'll change it. And he came back from Thailand. He quit his job there and then, and he set up a company called Change Please, which is a coffee company that is around London, different places, that hires homeless people and houses them for a year and serves coffee. And it's an amazing business. And he's happier than ever. Mm-hmm. And actually, he realized that his life wasn't about earning cash and those kind of things. Actually, it was about success, but success in a different form. Mm-hmm. And his success was helping others and doing something to make a difference. And it's so important to realize that from the beginning, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think it's true for going into any situation, really, whether that's a business or a relationship or even on a lower level going into, having a coffee with someone. Why am I doing, what was this for? Why? And something that we've been talking about recently with our team is every meeting we go into, what's the reason for this meeting? Because you can just go through life, just turning up to stuff.
Sure.
But not really knowing what the purpose was or what you were hoping to get out of it. And I think thinking sometimes selfishly, what's in it for me? What am I getting out of this? Mm-hmm. Is actually something that we are taught all our lives not to be selfish. Mm-hmm. And growing up, it's a bad thing to be selfish, which on a macro level is true. Mm-hmm. But actually day to day on those little things, why do we want to go and do this thing? what's the point? And if you're not careful, you can slip into probably a career of 30 years where you actually think, well, hang on a minute, what happened there? None of that was for me. So I think, knowing what you're doing, and it comes back to that self-awareness point, I suppose. So key.
And also, because I want to mention these guys, we were in Germany in something called the ISM the other day, which is, we've been there for the last 8 years. It's been 8 years, hasn't it? Yeah. Ed went there by himself to begin with. This amazing story how you basically go there, you can think of every single sweet and snack in the world. It's
a big conference trade show thing, for confectionery.
It's amazing, and Ed went there. We've had a sort of a funny journey with our sweets, and Ed went there to look at different sweets and find a manufacturer, and came across these guys called Catchers, who are a German company.
I know Catchers.
Yeah, they're great, right? And they, for listeners who don't know Candy Kittens, our brand, they make Percy Pigs, which is M&S sweets. And Ed said to them, "Oh, look, we want you to make our sweets for it." And they said, "Okay, well, your minimum order is 400,000 tons a year, and we just dropped Morrison's." And we went, "Okay, well, we're a startup. This is probably not going to work." And anyway, what happened then, so skip to 8 years later, they've just bought some of our business and they're making our sweets for us. And it was an amazing journey from the beginning. But I met these guys there who lit this year who have a chocolate bar called Tony's. And they were 4 Dutch guys who were journalists, and they went and checked out the cocoa trade in Africa and saw how horrific it was, saw the child labor that was going on, and said, "Okay, fine, we want to do something about this." So they wrote an article about it, and no one paid any interest to them. And they went, "Okay, fine, well, why don't we set up our own chocolate brand and use the cocoa trade to try and get arrested?" And they didn't get arrested. So what they did is they would set up a chocolate that was completely ethical, and their story and how they do it, and the uneven road of all these different things. And again, for them, the reason why they did that is because they went, "Okay, well, this is something that we want to do, we want to strive towards." It's like with Candy Kittens, we want to do it because we like sweets. We're like, well, this is going to be fun. This is going to be great. This is going to be exciting. And also at the same time, we're giving other people pleasure because we're feeding sweets to everyone. So for us, it was always about doing something that we always want to do. And I think that's really important.
I know I don't really have to reference what you said earlier, because even as an entrepreneur, I know that there's I think the outside perception is, you start a business, up you go, fame, success, money, it's all wonderful. But there's a very rocky road to travel to get there. And I wanted to know a little bit about your really, really tough times, the times when your darkest days.
In fairness, I mean, we've had tough times, really, really tough times. And most of them probably are started off and finished with cash. And I think that having that cash in the bank is literally your oxygen that keeps the business going. But I wouldn't necessarily say they were dark days in that sense, because I think that we've always been quite good at kind of managing the emotional part and the way that we're kind of involved in the business emotionally. So yeah, that's probably been a good thing. We don't take life too seriously, which definitely helps being an entrepreneur, because it's pretty tough. But yeah, I mean, the toughest times I think probably have been days where you look at the bank and you've got no money in there and you've got to pay the wages tomorrow. That's pretty horrible. We've had days where we've had to go out and get kind of 20 or 30 grand in an hour to kind of keep ourselves going, and you just call in every single person you know.
How does that feel though on those days? Say days when you look at the bank account, there's not.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't actually remember that feeling particularly.
Oh, I do.
It was scary and horrible, but I don't remember ever really thinking we're done. I never ever thought this is the end.
This is why it's very important to have someone. I think there's something like 73% of businesses have a co-founder or you have a business partner, and it's really important to have. I personally think it's important to. Did you start by yourself? Were you completely by yourself?
No, I had a co-founder.
You had a co-founder. Yes, yeah. So I think it's important to have a co-founder, because firstly, it's a lot of stress, and to have someone else to do it with is a bit better, relieving stress. It's more exciting to be on a journey with somebody else. It's a bit of a lonely place. I heard you talk about an interview once where you said that, I think you spoke to Gary Vee, who said, if you want to be super successful, it's going to be very lonely. And I kind of definitely see that. So if you have a buddy along the way to do it with, that's quite a fun thing to do. And again, I think, if you're greedy, then yeah, you want to take the whole business yourself 100%. But if you're not, I think it's a great thing. But Ed has always been this guy who has never worried too much. I catastrophize. Oh my God. But Ed has always had this level head. And I think that's really important to have. And especially when you're running a business, because you need to have, in situations of emergencies or in situations of chaos, you need someone to break through the clouds who can look above like a telescope and say, okay, no, we're going to be all right.
Well, you can't worry yourself out of a problem, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, crap, we're in the shit. What are we going to do about it? And in this case, okay, we've run out. We need 30 grand by 10 o'clock. Okay, who do we know that might have 4 grand, 5 grand? Okay, we're going to call this guy, and you make it work. And I think that we've had those are the kind of tough times, really, because it's kind of.
Did your team ever realise?
Probably not.
No,
probably not.
I'm quite fascinated by this this world that employees never really get to see, which is same for my business, which is total chaos upstairs. Like with the CEOs and the founders, total chaos, but almost like a blissful ignorance below.
I find it really hard. I even just about 12 months ago, we were going through a really, really big kind of negotiation and kind of like top level conversation about the future of the business and what we were going to do and the strategy. And I came out of a meeting feeling pretty shit and thinking, lots of thoughts going through my mind and just needed to kind of digest it all. And I got back and I sit at my desk and everybody's gets up and they're having beers in the office and they're all the fun stuff that we have built and encourage and want people to do. And they're like, oh, we're going to order some pizzas, Ed. Do you want anything? Do you want a beer? And I was just like, no, thanks. Just put my head down and kind of just like...
And that's the loneliness. That's the loneliness. It's an emotional loneliness.
You just sat there on your own while the whole team are just having fun. I was thinking, if only they knew what we've been talking about.
Are you sometimes envious of the ignorance to those problems? So. In a respect, you wouldn't trade it.
I wouldn't trade it, but I think sometimes I think, shit. And I'd love almost the point where I'm like, oh, I could almost just tell them that I don't want them having fun right now. And you just kind of hold back and you go, no, okay, we'll just...
Is there a part of you that is somewhat wishes you hadn't... Because I think of entrepreneurship as like something that you can't unsee.
Yeah.
And like when you're building a business, you can't like unsee it. Your dreams, your ambitions, where you want this to go, you can't turn that off.
Yeah.
But I wonder this. I don't think this is true, but I wonder if I would have been more happy if I didn't have the like disease that I have of like...
Totally.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The answer is probably... just no, isn't it? Probably, because you are who you are, right?
Yeah, so, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it is interesting, and I've actually on the kind of flip side of that, I've got lots of friends who are trying to run their own business, so they're pursuing entrepreneurial endeavors, and actually I look at it and go, do you know what? You'd probably be better just having a job.
Yes,
and there's loads of people like that we meet, and you think, why are they doing it? Why are they putting themselves through the pain? We go through that pain because we believe it's right and that's just what's called us there.
But surely they do too, right?
But I think actually sometimes people listen to your podcast. Yeah. They look at your Instagram. They look at people like Gary Vee and they go, yeah, that's me. I want a bit of that.
I agree.
And it's like being the footballer now. When I grew up, I couldn't think of anything more than wanting to go and play football and be a pro footballer. Kids are now growing up going, I want to be Gary Vee. It's kind of it's a weird flip. Nobody, when we were growing up, wanted to be a businessman or an entrepreneur. That word didn't really even exist.
Because I think it goes back down to that situation now where we turn on Instagram or go onto YouTube and we see everyone driving Lamborghinis or fast cars and we think that generates happiness. And so we go, well, how are we going to reach that happiness? We have to become an entrepreneur, set up a business, and we get success. But actually, it's a tough road. As you said, there is a huge happiness in having security and working in a community where you have a job and you can go to your work every single day and you can switch off at night. Being an entrepreneur and running your own business, you can never do that. You can never... I said this to Ed the other day. I said, Ed, when was the last time do you think you switched off? And he went... God, I don't. And I went, oh, exactly. You can never switch off. And yes, and what I honestly believe that the majority of entrepreneurs are filling a void within themselves. They have something missing within them. I don't think Ed actually has that. I actually just think Ed just quite likes running people and just being a leader. I think he actually does. But for me, or I think maybe for you too,
for sure.
There's something that you want to fill. And so the reason why a lot of these successful people who people think, or entrepreneurs, put stuff on social media and things like that, is because they're trying to constantly create and constantly do different things and show this and that. But actually, I think, honestly, probably for myself, you're feeling something or you're trying to be validated for something. And so that's why we're doing it. There is a huge bliss in being part of a huge corporate business and turning up and doing that and leaving work every single day and having your life. Being an entrepreneur is not all roses and sunshine at all, and it's stressful. Yeah. It's very stressful.
It's actually something that kind of bothers me a little bit, in the fact that, you know, when we have our podcast or we get involved with stuff like this, there's lots of people listening that then perhaps get encouraged to take that path that perhaps didn't need to go down that route. And I sort of feel partly a little bit guilty sometimes to think, you know, it's actually okay. You can have a great job and be really happy and enjoy that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to have probably a much easier life. It's going to be okay. I think there's a balance between sort of giving advice and then trying to convert people.
And also there's a real total difference between being an entrepreneur and being a businessman. There is such a difference. You can be a great entrepreneur, but you can be a bad businessman. I think personally I'm a good entrepreneur. I don't think I'm a very good businessman. I wouldn't be able to, without Ed, there is no way that Candy Kittens would be a success. Not in my wildest dreams. But I also think on the flip side, Ed sort of is both. He's an entrepreneur and a businessman. So, but without Ed, without me, there was probably no way that Candy Kittens could have been.
But you would have seen this as well. I mean, you guys have now gone public, right? So presumably you're dealing with people in that world that are very high profile, very well respected business people.
Of course, every investment bank.
But these are not entrepreneurs. Yeah. They can't think like you think.
No, of course not. No, I mean the finance team typically. You do well to find someone in a finance department that is entrepreneurial in their nature. They are more. It's more like a risk.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to communicate with individuals who are in the big corporate banks?
It's a lesson I've had to learn over the last couple of years, which is just, if you want to succeed with those types of people, you have to know their motivations and what they care about. And you have to take your like dreamy ambition, we can do everything, we're going to take over the world stuff. And you have to try and filter it through the way they see the world. So I try and speak their language, even though naturally I'm like you, where, you know, I'm big dreamy, like the business would have gone bust if it was just me, right? Same with Umar. He's told me a million times. And you learn, I try and learn over time how to speak in a different language to those people. Whereas to, on stage, exactly. Spreadsheets. And if I'm talking about culture and buying a slide, I know to talk about it through the impact of the P&L, the positive impact of the P&L. And so we bought a slide in our office 5-6 years ago, whenever it was, 5 years ago, and every major newspaper, BuzzFeed, Vice, Channel 4, Gadget Show came down. Vice did a documentary on us. It's all about the fucking slide. And so you think about the marketing ROI on that slide, it's like disproportionate. Like the BBC had me like Laing in there the other day, and everyone comes to the slide, and and you could not have bought that. But how do you communicate a bit of brand work that is going to have no direct to a finance person? So that's the skill that I'm learning.
But that's interesting, because that goes back to your naivety as well. The fact that you got that sliding because you thought it would be fun, and then you get all this press because of it. Yeah. But also, I think that analogy of the slide is a great story, because it actually just shows what the culture within a business is so important, what you're creating. And we spoke to an amazing guy called...
It's brand now. This is the big distinction. In a world where companies are now glass boxes, where employees can take a Snapchat or an Instagram and show you inside, and social media, there's no such thing anymore as internal company culture. It's just brand. Yeah. And so you can tell me the stories of you hearing about Amazon staff pissing in bottles in the warehouse, because we're all glass boxes now. You can tell me, you know about Google's office. People will know about your office through all of your employees doing beers and pizza. And that is part of your brand. I think the biggest contradiction in the world would be if I came to Candy Kittens' office and it was a bunch of like miserable...
Sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
Don't come.
Don't come is it. But okay, but I see, but I think, Steve, your slide analogy is great, because even though you spent £13,000 on building a slide that you probably couldn't afford
and don't use,
you still created something within your business that was exciting, fun, energetic, something that was you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, because even though it cost you a huge amount of money, it represented something much more important. Mm-hmm. And I think that's key, that you never lost what you were trying to do and what you were trying to show. You kind of just went, this is what we represent.
But listen, changing subject, the podcast sponsor, which is Boost by Facebook, they are a dedicated one-stop shop for entrepreneurs, for CEOs, for small businesses, job seekers, and anybody with ambition that's looking to thrive in this digital economy. They launched with the aim of creating a place where all of us can understand this new world of digital and social. It can be incredibly intimidating. My mum, I was talking to her about Boost with Facebook the other day. She doesn't know how to use a phone. She doesn't know how to type, and she's trying to run a business in 2020 and compete against people that do. Boost is a place for people like her where she can learn more about the digital economy, about features and skills and training and all of the things that matter, the things that might level the playing field for her as someone that doesn't know about this new world that we live in. You can learn more about this at facebook.com/boost with Facebook UK. And if you do check it out, drop me a message and let me know how you find it. I always pop on there every now and then to try and make sure I'm staying ahead of the curve. But yeah, do let me know how you find it. I was really interested in what you said a second ago about you've got a couple of friends who are trying to be entrepreneurs, and you know from your perspective that they shouldn't be. And now to even have that understanding, it takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness, right? Yeah. Almost an impossible amount of self-awareness, because the narrative is just keep going, never quit. Yeah, you can do anything you say. But what you're saying is quit. You're saying you shouldn't do that. And that's the counter narrative to all of the messaging out there. So I guess my question is, how is someone supposed to know when entrepreneurship is not for them?
Not sure I'm intelligent enough to answer. I think it's so difficult, but it does come down to that kind of self-awareness piece. And I think Jamie mentioned earlier about, people that are sat in a room trying to come up with an idea. So that people that say, I want to be an entrepreneur, I just don't know what business it's going to be yet.
Yeah, it's the worst.
That's like, well, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like saying, I want to be a professional sportsman, but I just don't know what sport.
Yeah.
Like you can't, how's that going to happen?
Yeah.
I think you have to, it comes from those real kind of innate idea, like the ideas that are within you, and that you genuinely, as you just said, really believe, genuinely believe in. And also probably the way you're enjoying it and going through the process. I think some people I talk to people about, so we meet people at different events or whatever, and they say, okay, I've got this thing and I'm struggling to get hold of the right people to make the business work. They say, okay, well, what have you tried? And you say, well, we've sent some emails out, but nobody ever gets back. And you go, okay, well, that's the point where you should stop now. That you should now quit.
Yeah.
Because if you just sent an email and somebody hasn't replied and you can't possibly think of any other way to get hold of them, then it's not going to work for you.
But also, Ed made such a good point the other day. We were talking to a friend of mine who is working for a gin company. And he said, I'm trying to get hold of Waitrose and things at the moment. I can't get hold of them. How do I get hold of them? And Ed sent them an email saying, honestly, just go in there. Go to the headquarters and walk in. That's what you need to. You need to have that. And I think you know when you shouldn't be an entrepreneur if you're not willing to take risks. And risk is everything. You've got to put yourself out there and just be willing to do anything and everything to achieve what you want to achieve.
Question to you then.
Yeah.
How does one go from being a non-risk taker? Because you guys, one of the things that you said you shared, one of your privileges per se, was confidence.
Sure.
So if someone's listening to this right now and they are maybe not the most confident person, is there anything they can do to build said confidence?
Yeah.
Different types of confidence though, right, as well? Because it's not always about saying, I'm confident enough to stand up on a stage and deliver a keynote. It's also the confidence to say, I really believe this idea can work, and I don't care what anybody tells me, I've got confidence in my idea. Or there's confidence in knowing that you're very good at maths and you're going to absolutely kill it and your numbers are always... There's different levels, but I don't know which one you necessarily need, or if you need all of them or maybe one of them to be right. But confidence is quite a hard thing to teach, I think, particularly as you get older.
So where did it come from in you though? Because one of the things that when I look back, there's obviously nature and nurture, and I'd be somewhat naive to not, pay homage to the presence of those things in my life. But when I look back at my life, it's doing something and then being like, that was cool. I didn't know I could do that. And then taking these small steps that today, it's almost like a staircase. You take one step up the staircase and you think, oh yeah, fuck me, look at me go. You take another small step. For me, it's like public speaking. I spoke in front of 50 people. I was shitting myself, shaking, couldn't read what was on the thing. And then the next, 100 people, and I'm like, oh my God, fuck. And then I'm doing fucking 15,000 people in Brazil with Obama. And I feel the same. And I think it's almost like this little staircase. And the problem with motivational speakers and shit like that is they tell you to just throw yourself into this like fiery abyss of uncertainty. Whereas for me, the way to get there is just these tiny fucking steps over a long period of time. And that could be make the Instagram account today. Like come up with a name.
Yeah.
I
think that's exactly it. I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head there where, for example, if you sort of say to someone, so, Ed and I and yourself, we were lucky to probably have confidence from the beginning. We did something, whether it was score a goal in football when we were younger or pick up an instrument or sing once. And so, oh my God, that's great. Go and do here. And slowly by slowly you build it up like that. And that's how you build stuff. But it's the same way if someone says, right, I'm going to go and start the gym. Don't make these huge dreams that you go, okay, I'm going to have a 6-pack or whatever by 1 month's time. You got to slowly do it bit by bit. If you go on a 5-minute run one day and then do a 12-minute run the next day and then a 30-minute and you build it up like that, that's the way to success and that's the way to building these different things. And
repeating that.
Repeating that, yeah. You just have to, I think, in terms of confidence, you have to be willing to work at it like everything and you have to be willing to take it step by step and trying different things, whether that is giving a talk in front of 5 people, then doing a talk in front of 10 people. I went and did stand-up comedy for the first time.
Really?
In my life the other day, and holy shit, it was one of the worst things I've ever had to do. But I went and did it, and I thought, okay, I'll just go and do this. I went on stage, and it went really well, and it was funny. Wow. Everyone laughed. I was like, this is amazing. So I then went, okay, well, I'm gonna go and do this again. And I went on stage again, and it was one of the worst things I have ever done.
Really?
Yeah, don't make a joke at the beginning about. I made a joke. I came on pretty confident for the second time, and my first joke was, I've done stand-up comedy before, and this is the second time I'm doing it, and I got in a taxi coming here, and I spoke to the taxi driver, said, can I practice my routine on you? And he went, yeah, go on, lad. And I said, and obviously he spoke like that because he's working class. And no one laughed. And I went, oh my God, don't make a joke if you're white, privileged and posh on stage. But it was this learning, and it's the same thing. You learn these different things, and you learn how to get confidence. So going back to your question, how do you teach on? It's about within you. If you want to start becoming fit, you have to do it yourself. If you want to give up alcohol, you have to do it yourself. If you want to learn to get confidence, you have to do it yourself, but it's bit by bit. And you have to go on that journey yourself. No one else can teach you it.
But that's the big thing, right? There's only a small amount of people that are willing to put the work in. And I suppose then that goes back to the question of how do you know when to quit? Are you genuinely really, really willing to sacrifice and give up? But I think if you start seeing it as a sacrifice, that's also part of the problem. Because I never considered, you have obviously made lots of sacrifices to choose to kind of live the life you're living. But I don't know, do you kind of acknowledge those?
Of course not.
You never look at it and go, okay, well, I'm going to make a decision today. I'm going to sacrifice this thing instead and do that.
Because it always, the nature of sacrifice almost makes you believe that you're giving up something you wanted to do more for this. But I never wanted to go out and go to Tiger in Manchester more than I wanted to sit and build my website.
You missed out.
So although it's almost, like it's something, people will look at your life and say, oh, you sacrificed so much. I'm like, well, no, I didn't want to do those other things. And you can tell what I wanted to do by my actions. Like, so that's really interesting.
But Steve, you're a rarity for sure, because you were 17 when you started, was that right?
18, I said.
18, yeah. And that's pretty rare to understand what you want to do at that age. I said it once, I said it again, I think the educational system is completely flawed in lots of different ways, because firstly, it drives creativity out of you in lots of different ways. Secondly, it's a place where you can't copy, cheat, you can't collaborate, you can't do anything. And life is all about collaborating and copying and helping each other. And at school doesn't have and you're meant to know exactly what you want to do at the age of 18 years old. You're meant to know you want to go and study this at university and do that. And no one fucking knows.
I didn't know.
Yeah, but I think
it's weird, because I didn't know what the word entrepreneur was until maybe 2 years after I'd become one. When I started out, there wasn't this like the Social Network movie and all this, Gary Vee stuff and all this. I was a kid that my favorite game with my brothers was turning my bunk bed into a business and making fake money and passing it to each other. My mum was always really entrepreneurial, although she never had any money and she failed, and she slept on the shop floor of her business every night, never came home in her corner shop. But I just thought, that at 16 years old, I realized that my grades were going to be really, really, really bad. And that meant that this narrative of getting good grades and being rich was never going to happen for me. And I also think I overvalued money because we never had it. I think I was like insecure and inadequate. I'll give you one more layer. I was the only black kid in a school of 1,500 white kids in an area where everyone was middle class, but our house had like 6-foot grass at the front and smashed windows on the front for a decade and a half. I felt inadequate. I was dealing with this complex about me being black and having fluffy hair and all the kids having straight hair. And it was just like this constant, I need to like, and my parents aren't around either. So I'm like, if I'm going to get it, I need to get it on my own.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to get it. And so
you had that hunger driven within you because your mum was sleeping on the shop floor, and
ridiculous.
Which is crazy. And you saw, I think, what a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of successful people experience when they're younger is that they experience sort of pretty hard times, and they can see that not what hard work, but where life can lead. Mm-hmm. And I suppose what you're saying is that you didn't want to lead that. You wanted to change your family's life and build it like that. And that comes from a place. So even though you didn't know what you wanted to do, you knew where you didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And so that
was non-negotiable.
But that's even better, right? That's actually so. For Ed and I, and a lot of people listening, they're 18 years old. They probably didn't experience the same things that you experienced, and probably have, they probably go on nice holidays and they probably do different things. And so,
like my friend that I mentioned earlier, his dad's a billionaire, but he experienced the exact same thing, but in a because it's all it is an emotional feeling, and that emotional feeling can arrive from, say, your dad being a billionaire and you feeling like you're always in his shadow. And that you can get the same thing, the same motivation and the same drive. There's this huge misconception amongst like entrepreneurs that we're all on the fucking playground selling fags at 12 years old and we're all like wheeling and dealing. But the emotional feeling can come from any circumstance. It can come from like female rejection. It can come from, it's just that feeling of inadequacy or independence, So
I totally hear what you're saying. I think that's so funny. There is that kind of misconception again where, when you ask me, when did you start your first business? Well, and I always say, I didn't make it up, but I said, I picked heads off my daffodils, off my mum's daffodils. And I don't think it happens there. It gets to a place like you said where you wanted to build something for yourself. The reason Ed and I went it is because we were more excited about the prospect of building Candy Kittens than actually going and working for a corporate business. Yeah.
And that's sort of an example of life doesn't really play out like a movie. Mm-hmm. So
but we think it does.
Question. So you go, and I'm like, oh shit, what was my first business? Like, how did I? Yeah. Because everybody expects that kind of Disney fairy tale entrepreneur story, but it's not always there. So I was washing my dad's car and getting a couple of quid for it, but that wasn't a business. But it was probably something that led to work hard, get money, work harder, get more money, and it turned into a bit of a business. But it's just I guess it doesn't always play out. It plays out differently for everybody.
It's so important because, again, that's empowering to a lot of people who can't think of them selling fags on the playground at 12 years old. Yeah. And the narrative is that if you weren't doing that, then maybe you're not cut out for it in some respect. Yeah. But the entrepreneurs that I've met on this podcast alone are so diverse in their upbringings. They are introverts. And again, that breaks the narrative because apparently all entrepreneurs are these fucking wacky, super confident people. They are introverts that have remote teams and have built businesses that are making hundreds of millions. They are sometimes extroverts. They are sometimes the people like me and probably a little bit like yourself, Jamie, and Gary, who are, much more sort of externally confident. And they come in different shapes and sizes. I think that the question that I wanted to pose to you guys is, we've done a lot of, I guess, looking backwards and like looking at now, but what is it that you guys are playing for? Like, why do you get up every day now? And where is this going over the next couple of years of your life?
Do you want to take this one, buddy?
I think that for me, I want to continue to build the best possible business we can build. And when we started, we really had ambitions of going out there and kind of knocking Haribo off their perch and going, okay, let's really properly challenge a market. We're now the fastest growing confectionery company in the UK, but beyond that, we've still got a long, long way to go.
Isn't that nuts, though?
It's crazy. And you look at these brands.
A packet of Candy Kittens sweets is bought every 12 seconds.
I mean, maybe.
I'm probably.
Is that wrong? Have I just lied?
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
We look at
Have
stats.
I just totally lied about that?
There's kind of stats in the office the other day, and we're selling more. We were selling more things than like major brands like Skittles. We're growing quicker than Skittles. We're growing quicker than a whole heap of brands, and these are kind of like household names that we grew up with that we're then going toe to toe with and challenging, which is fun. So that I think is great, but we want to do that properly on a kind of global stage. Personally, I think it's about that kind of sense of achievement inside yourself to say, yeah, okay, I'm really proud of that. Really, really happy with what we've done. Nothing makes me more happy than building the team, and I think seeing the team grow and go on to do amazing things. We employ some great people, some really talented people that have come through our internship program and end up being then kind of senior managers in the team is really fun for me.
How does it feel like when they quit?
We've probably only had one person quit that I was upset about.
And how? Talk me through that feeling. You find out, you get that email or whatever, you have a chat, and they say, I'm going elsewhere. How does that feel?
I think it's quite upsetting, but actually in this case, she left to go and start her own business and do something else, and I think that was kind of cool as well, because you think, okay, well, she's kind of been a part of what we're doing, in some way, perhaps has learned from us and been inspired by what's happening within these walls. So actually, that's kind of cool. She can go and do her own thing. If she leaves to go to a competitor or leaves to go somewhere else, then I don't really get upset about it. I say, okay, cool, go and do whatever you do your thing.
Interesting question, and I'm going to ask you both in isolation, so you have to answer separately. Jamie, how would you feel if Ed turned around tomorrow and said, I'm quitting? And said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna sell my stake, whatever, to this guy, and I'm gonna leave and I'm going somewhere else.
I would, in all honesty, I'd probably feel quite let down. I would, because I think persistency is a really big thing, and you kind of, if you go into something, you kind of got to stick at it and go for it. So yeah, I would probably feel, let down, because, for Ed, I have not been an easy journey for him. I started a TV show. I was doing lots of different things, and he had to run the business while I was, and I'm like that on bad days. But I think at the same time, when you go into something together, you kind of have to stick at it, and you kind of got to do it together, and you go on this journey together. And I get that people change their opinions and change their minds and different things, but you kind of want to stick things out. And
how would work feel the next day? So Ed's gone, you get into the office.
It would like me going into a cockpit and trying to land a plane. I'd have no freaking clue what is going on. So it'd be pretty damn scary for me. Ed and I, as Ed said at the beginning, we are two very different people, but we're similar in lots of different ways, and we have the same aim, and we complement each other in loads of different ways.
Would you feel like a bit of your sense of purpose as to why you were doing this was gone?
I would probably I would feel inadequate to do it. I don't think I would not be the right person to run it. It's when you're building a business, it's very important to hire people who are better than you in so many different ways, and it's very important to hire people who do the job better than you. Mm-hmm. And Ed does the job far better than me in every single way. So it would be a tricky scenario, because then I'd have to find another Ed, and that would be a very hard task to do. So I would probably. Is he about to tell me? Is that the whole point of this?
This was like a 30-second date.
I would feel scared. I would feel worried. But I would, with everything, you just got to push on, and you've got to achieve what you got to achieve, and you just got to go through it. And that's what I think. What about you, Ed?
Tell him.
Tell me the truth. Go on.
Okay, so we set this up today. So I think it's tough. I think that there's this kind of old adage that everybody in a business is replaceable. Mm-hmm. But I think actually in our case, the relationship that Jamie has to the business and the relationship that Jamie and I have, Jamie has made himself very, very difficult to replace. Mm-hmm. It's so synonymous with the brand and kind of such a sort of bedrock to what we're about. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably safe to say that Candy Kittens wouldn't be Candy Kittens without Jamie's energy and personality mm-hmm. and everything that he gives to it. So yeah, it would be very tough. I think that we would have to seriously consider kind of how the business would move forward from that point. Mm-hmm. We've got to an amazing stage putting that to one side, we got to an amazing stage, and from day one we were kind of keen to make sure that Candy Kittens stood on its own two feet as a brand. And there's lots of places now, we sell in the States where people don't know who Jamie is, and we're building the brand there based on the fact that it's a really good product. But it would be tough, and I think that, as Jamie says, it would be that kind of sense of being let down and thinking, shit, okay, if he quits, then what am I still doing here? What's he seeing that I can't see, or what am I looking at a goal and the potential that just isn't there anymore? So yeah, I would feel a little bit disappointed, I think.
Let's go back to that question about the future then. So the future of Candy Kittens and where you want to go with this, and
I think probably for both of us, I think that, at the beginning we want to establish ourselves as the leading confectionery brand in the UK. That's what we want to do, and we still have that aim. We're a British brand. We want to continue to do that. But I think that you kind of, in terms of the future, you don't really want to give yourself boundaries. You kind of want to just go, you want to aim for the stars and
Is the answer you don't know?
I think for us, Ed and I, if we are totally honest with ourselves, will we be selling sweets for the rest of our lives? Who knows? And we always say the same thing. If we had gone and sold socks, we would probably be doing the same thing. We actually don't make the sweets. A German company, Catches, make the sweets for us. But what Ed is and the team is and I am, we're good at building brands. And I think for us, we will constantly, whether it's Candy Kittens or something else, we'll constantly build brands, and we'll constantly start things and build things and create things. I think creativity is the most important thing in life. And I think that's what we will constantly be doing, whether that's Candy Kittens or something else.
And you don't know how long that, that could be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, could be, just depends how things play
I think the goalposts keep moving further away for us.
Sure.
We thought, okay, when we get our first supermarket, we will have smashed it. And then you get that one, and then you want the next 5 supermarkets. And then you get those, and then you want the supermarkets in a different country. And then you keep going, and those goalposts keep moving further and further away. But I think I'm okay with that. As long as I keep enjoying it, as long as we keep having fun, and we feel that sense of achievement and pride, then we'll still be chipping away.
And this is my last question before the last one. Money. You talked about Catches coming in and buying some of your company out. I'm guessing they bought your equity.
Yeah, we're rich. We're really rich now.
Yeah.
Rich now. Okay.
See you later.
This was in fact, this podcast was to announce to your employees.
Yeah,
we're off.
We're billionaires. We're really excited about it. No, Catches came in. They bought out. I can say this kind of they bought out the minority shareholders.
Okay.
So Ed and I are still in, very much in. We're still there. We just wanted to team up with someone that, again, we've built the business a very long way, but I think we know exactly what we want to do, and we'll continue doing what we want to do. But to have someone on board who are a manufacturer is really important, and that's what the German company Catches do for us. They make amazing sweets.
But you haven't got a payout per se yourselves yet, because they bought out the minority. Same in my company. They bought out the minority shareholders.
So we're still kind of working away, and I think that what's amazing for us is that we've suddenly got this startup world that we're in, and we've got a young team, lots of naivety, energy, creativity, and everything that comes with it. And then on the other side of the coin is this huge German company that's over 100 years old, and they're generating hundreds of millions in revenue, owning companies across the globe, real kind of corporate mentality. And those two worlds kind of collide in a really nice way for us. So we're able to work with them, learn everything that they have to offer. And ultimately, the reason we kind of went and made the partnership happen was because we really believed in them, and they were just a great bunch of people. It's still a family-owned organisation. And although it's this huge, huge thing, they share a lot of our kind of mentality and ethos. So yeah, really nice way.
53% of German businesses are still family run.
Really?
It's amazing. And in the UK, what we do is we think, okay, we'll build this and I'll sell it, build it and I'll sell it. And actually it's the Germans are amazing because it's not about being cash rich. What it's about is having generational wealth in terms of building for your family and for your family's family and for your family. And it's about building family.
And passing it on.
And
they never sell.
They never sell. And in the UK, we think we are incredibly selfish. And we go, okay, well, we're going to make the money. And that's why we have something called the third generation curse, which is grandfather makes it, father sustains it, and then son loses it because they don't do anything. And it happens over and over again. And in Germany, it doesn't happen because it's all about keeping it within the family. Very mafia of them, but it's a good way to be, and it's an important way to be.
As founders that are yet to take cash off the table, does that play on your mind as you're getting older, you're starting families and those kinds of things? And do you think I would like to take some cash off the table at some point?
Go on, Jamie.
Well, I think. Listen, there was an interesting statistic that came out the other day. The happiest people earn €72,000 a year. Those are the peak of happiness, because anything that you earn less, you want more, and anything after that actually just is more problematic. You don't really have to earn that much money in order to be super happy. What cash brings you is a bigger house and a faster car and nicer holidays. Pretty much, that's what it brings you. But
it's interesting because we were actually talking about this with the German guys, and they were explaining that if every increment you get a salary increase up until about say 50,000-60,000, there's a level, call it 50,000.
Sure.
Every time you get a salary increase, it has a real benefit to your life. So you can suddenly rent a nicer flat, you can do this, you can do this, and then when you get to like £50,000, say, there's nothing that you can do differently to the guy earning £1 million a year, because. Okay, he gave an example. This is the owner of the business in Germany. He said, okay, well, I'm going on holiday this year to Cuba with my family. Okay, cool. I'm going to fly probably first class, and I'm going to do some nice things when we're there in a nice hotel. But you could still go to holiday. You could go on holiday in Cuba. You just get a different plane to me, and maybe stay in. But the core experience is still the same.
Yeah.
You can still live in London. You can still do this. You can do what you do with your life is the same. So there's a massive void, as Jamie's then saying. The more money you earn, more money, more problems. You get to a point where actually that doesn't benefit you. So I don't know. For us, I think we want to get to a point where life is sustainable. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you are not able to kind of do the things you want to do in terms of having a family, or I got married last year, these kind of things, you are then sacrificing a little bit, maybe too much. It's going to make your business really difficult to run. So if that's causing you financial stress and anxiety and trouble outside of your day-to-day life, then you're going to probably be a worse person in the business.
And you can see the value you've created.
There needs to be a balance. Yeah. And we were taught from a very early stage of Candy Kittens to pay ourselves a reasonable salary. I remember going into a meeting and kind of putting out on the table with our board of directors kind of what we thought we wanted to earn, and being quite punchy and saying, okay, well, we want to earn that. And it was silly. It was like 18 grand a year, because we thought, okay, well, that's enough to pay our wage, I'll pay our bills, and we can survive on that, and it'll make the business work. And they were like, no, you guys need to pay yourself a proper salary, because otherwise you're going to be resentful, and you're not going to be working properly, and you're going to be scraping around for cash. So yeah, there's a balance, but I don't feel desperate to take cash off the table. I think there's a lot we still want to do, and we're in it for the long run.
My last question then, you mentioned marriage. I'm always intrigued by the impact that the entrepreneurial pursuit has on romantic relationships for entrepreneurs. And I know you're in a relationship, Jamie. You're married now. What impact has being an entrepreneur, running a business, and being obsessed with your own with Candy Kittens had on your relationships?
I think actually probably in the early days of my relationship with Charlotte, it was probably the thing that drew us closer together, because it gave me an escape, gave me something else to think about. She gave me something else to think about and focus on. So instead, I
thought you meant Candy Kittens gave me an escape from Charlotte. I was like, you're in trouble.
Otherwise, she
totally
different. No, but actually, leaving, not sitting in the office till 11 o'clock at night and just getting a takeaway. I actually had somebody to go and see, or go out for dinner with, or whatever. So that was quite a positive thing. She also runs her own business. So in my case, I'm very lucky. We spend a lot of time talking about each other's work. So that kind of works well. I think it's finding the balance though, and also knowing when to switch off. And we've sort of seemed so far to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think sort of the same. I think it's about. I think it's really healthy and a good appetite to have is when you lead two different lives, and you lead different lives, and you kind of come together as one. I think for I've had a sort of checkered past in terms of relationships, and that's for lots of different reasons. But I think now I'm in a relationship where we kind of value each other immensely and understand and appreciate each other. And I think it's just about balance. I think balance in life is really important.
Are you easy to date?
God, I was thinking about this the other day. I think I'm I don't know. I think I am and I'm not.
Why aren't you?
Because I'm hectic. I think I'm hectic. I'm a really good in relation. So I would consider myself fun and loving and all those different things. But I've had to learn to not be so selfish. And actually, there are other people who you need to appreciate and love and different things. And I think
compromise.
Compromise. I think for a lot of my 20s, most of my 20s, it was all about what pleased me. And then you realize actually it's not about what pleases you, how about pleasing others. And I think that's what I probably had to learn a lot. But I think it's about having a healthy balance between work life and relationship life. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have family and love, I said this before, the meaning of life is really to love, I think. And it sounds super cheesy, but I think it is. And when you're older, you're just gonna want your homie next to you, and that's pretty much it. You don't really care about anything else.
The last point I always say on this podcast is just about my little dinner party song and dance. I don't know if you've had this before, but I tell the guests that they can pick, if they were to have a dinner party today at this very table, and you could invite 4 guests that are alive, who would you invite? So I'm going to let you invite 2 guests each and just explain why you'd invite those 2 people. Dead or alive, anybody you want.
Oh, God.
And also what we're going to eat.
Okay, I would probably I'd have to go for an adventurer. So I'd probably go for Shackleton.
Wow.
Shackleton would be great just because he's a leader. Oh my, what a leader, and the things he did and the things he saw. So I'd go for someone like him in terms of a leader. And in terms of someone entertaining, I would probably go for someone like, I think Elvis.
Wow.
Would be quite cool just because of what he stood for, what he did, but also why it tumbled so badly towards the end. When you have that much success and that much fame and all these different things and everyone what they want to achieve and why they want to achieve it, why does it go wrong? What happened? Was it unfulfilling? And I'd want to find out. Quite depressing, but I'd kind of find out. And we would have a starter, would have a burrata. Delightful.
You can pick the main then, Ed.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to stick Italian theme as well, actually. It's already sorted in my mind. So I would go for Muhammad Ali.
Nice.
Because I just think he's super cool. I watched the Will Smith Ali film the other day. Again, one of my favourites. I just think that...
Never seen it.
Oh,
so cool.
Is it great?
Just insane. You need to do that. Homework for you, Jamie.
I was watching Bruno last night, so that's...
Slightly different vibe. A bit more highbrow. Good stuff. But, so yeah, I think the experiences he's gone through and the challenges he faced, but also super entertaining and fun, I'd imagine.
And just the guts to say, do you know what? I'm going to give up my whole career because I don't want to go to war.
Yeah,
and willing to go to jail and all those
just
things.
Crazy, but just so quick-witted and
away
with words and be a real kind of capture the whole nation.
Yeah,
amazing. And similar sort of vein, actually, Obama, I think, would be pretty cool. I mean, you look at this kind of state of politics kind of globally at the moment, and somebody like Trump in power, I just think it's just, you can't get your head around how they've gone from like one of the greatest spokespeople of all time
character
to then go to, and whether or not you agree with like the details of Obama's policies and politics, but actually just to be that great spokesman and such a great ambassador for a country. And then you just go to Donald Trump. It's just like,
crazy,
how does that happen? But those two I think would be pretty cool. And
what are we eating?
We're going to eat gnocchi, which
I
just love. So simple.
What? That heavy pasta?
Yeah, you sound like my wife now.
What?
Because I'm never allowed it at home, so that's why.
Gnocchi?
No, I'm never allowed.
Out of everything we could have had, we're having burrata than gnocchi.
I'll let you guys settle that with it later. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And,
cheers, man.
I'm super excited to watch the future of Candy Kittens unfold. It's an incredible brand. And every time I get on the flight, every single time I see it, and I it's my somewhat innocent or guilty pleasure, however you want to look at it. But I want to say thank you as well, because you've created something that makes my flights a lot more pleasant to New York. So thanks.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. For the last couple of years, I've been working on something that I realized every podcaster listening to this, but actually probably every creator listening to this, might just need. Podcasting is difficult for many reasons. And one of them is that these hosting platforms don't give you much information. And also, because they're so fragmented, you kind of have to go through every single platform, uploading it to YouTube and then taking the same big old video file and uploading it to Spotify's platform. It takes huge amounts of time. And that friction means most of us don't do it. That is the problem we set out to solve. And so we built something called Flightcast, which you can find at flightcast.com. And today, Flightcast is also one of our show sponsors. And some of the world's biggest podcasters are now using our platform to run their shows because it gives you an edge. It saves you time. It gives you analytics most people won't typically get. It allows you to use AI to be more informed on your show. And it has growth tools that other hosting platforms don't have. So podcasters that are using Flightcast have this unfair advantage. So go to flightcast.com/DOAC now.